It's what many of us crave during the bowl season. Intriguing, interesting matchups with connections and rivalries or potential rivalries, depending on your perspective. We've got UCF, we've got Florida. It's the Gasparilla Bowl, and it involves, of course, interesting connections there in the state of Florida. But to get the better view, we go to Jeff Sharon, gold and black, black and gold banneret there on SB Nation. Jeff, thanks so much for stopping by.
Hey, Mark, it's been a while. Happy holidays. It's always good to see you.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and thank you so much for dropping by, and it's good to see you as well. The significance of this matchup, when it comes to any bowl matchup, we've got our faction of fans that think they're exhibitions and meaningless and become more and more meaningless as the years go by, and then on the flip side, you got to consider that more people are going to be watching this game and pretty much any bowl game, and that particular team is going to be more of in a national spotlight than at any other time of the season, and people watch bowl games. But this is a unique situation. I remember after the 2018 season, there may have been an opportunity there with LSU taking on UCF, and Florida played Michigan, and if we could have gotten some cooperation there, a UCF Florida game. So your thoughts about this matchup in regards to the significance somewhat off the field in the state?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Florida's the big dog in the state of Florida, right? And I'm old enough to remember when they weren't, when it was Florida State and Miami, and then when Spurrier kind of established himself, Florida became the real player. It's Florida and UCF are separated by a 2-hour drive. All right. And they've only played each other twice ever. Both times were in Gainesville. UF won in blowouts both times. But now comes since then, and the most recent one was in 2006, when UCF was in their second season in Conference USA. That's how long ago that was. And now comes this opportunity with UCF now having announced that they're going to be in the Big 12 no later than 2024. And with Gus Malzahn now at the helm after the departure of Josh Heupel after last season, UCF is in this transitionary mode once again, but that transition is putting them on what UCF believes to be an equal footing with Florida, Florida State, Miami, the other so-called power institutions within the state of Florida. And this is a chance right now for UCF to really establish itself and serve notice to everyone that, okay, we're the new dogs around here. The UCF fans have been aching for a matchup with Florida for a while now. Like you said, even going back to 2018, there were some emails traded between former athletic director Danny White at UCF and Scott Strickland at Florida, regarding a potential, regular season matchup when UCF was in the midst of their 25-game win streak in 2017 and 2018. It never came to fruition. And of course, there has been a lot of chatter, shall we say, between the two fan bases. But now these two get to settle it on the field. Some more cynical fans, I think, are saying, oh, wow, the excuses are already built in for Florida, because they're 6-6 and they're going through a coaching change, and their starting quarterback is reportedly said he's going to throw his name into the transfer portal. And basically this game is an audition for him, for potential suitors, but I think UCF fans don't care because they're going to show up to the game and they reportedly the game is sold out, 65,000 people in Tampa for this game. It's going to be wild. There's a lot of, there's always, I think like 90% of bowl games, outside of the college football playoff, they have kind of limited hype because they're unusual matchups, but there's some real juice around this one.
And there should be, and that's going to be fun to watch. That's going to be fun to watch because we do see typically dead bowl settings in the stadium with half attended stadiums, if that. So that's going to be intriguing. And I understand both perspectives. It's It's not going to necessarily prove anything, but it is getting both programs, both current teams on the same field. And for me, there are no excuses. When there is a game to be played in a competitive situation, either you show up and show yourself to be a competitor and walk away with the win or the loss and own it, and not make a bunch of excuses about who was there, who wasn't there, our mindset, our attitude, how much we cared. If anything, I think it is more of a credit to show up and say, hey, we took the L. They were the better team that day, and we gave it all we had. You're being more of a stand-up person and a competitor that way rather than making excuses. So we'll see how all that drama plays up into the game, and then obviously post-game as well. In regards to the matchup, how do you feel about the matchups, the advantages, disadvantages there, coming off an 8-4 season, and would love to get your take on that as well.
Well, it's kind of an unusual matchup here because I mean, let's establish first that Florida is clearly a talented team. Okay, they are an SEC level team. Early in the season they had it looked like they were potentially a real competitor, and then the bottom fell out. All right, but there's still SEC athletes on that roster. Okay, let's be real about that. UCF, on the other hand, Gus Malzahn is still in the process of putting his stamp on the roster. I think the early signing day was a really good indication of that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But this is still a roster that's in transition from the Josh Heupel air raid system to Gus Malzahn's more traditional spread system, and that's true on both sides of the ball. But in terms of who's going to be out there for UCF, they should have a full complement out there. And you mentioned UCF having an 8-4 season. Florida comes in at 6-6. I think that this has been a fantastic coaching job by Gus Malzahn getting this team to 8-4, because think back to the Louisville game when 5-6 top level guys went down with injuries, including Dylan Gabriel, who was the starting quarterback, of course. And he went down with a broken collarbone, and he's never, and that was the last time we saw him on the field as a UCF Knight. And now he's announced he's going to transfer to UCLA. And so Malzahn throws in a true freshman quarterback in Mikey Keene out of Chandler, Arizona, who manages to push this team to an 8-4 record in a bowl game. I mean, it's when you really sit back for a second and you think about, where UCF was after that opening night win against Boise State. Remember, they came back from that big deficit. It was actually tied for the biggest deficit in school, biggest deficit in school history in a single game. They came back and won 36-31. And then all that happened since to get to this point with a chance to go 9-4 and a chance to beat Florida, even though you're a 6.5 point underdog. It's a remarkable coaching job by Gus. It's an absolutely remarkable coaching job. And, the American has been very strong this year, I think, at the very top. The bottom of the conference really, was kind of rough, but, this was a tough coaching job, and he was able to pull it together. And it's a real credit to him. And it's a credit to the players who, have seen this transition through. It has not been flashy as it has been in the previous 4 years. It couldn't be, based on, what UCF was able to do offensively. But, the defense stepped it up, and, we got to give a lot of credit to Mikey Keene, because in the last 5 games, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. That's, for a true freshman, that's pretty solid down the stretch.
If you can bite the bullet and play a younger quarterback, or you're pressed into that situation, and then he shows that long-term potential and development, then, hey, it sets you up even better for down the road. So that's exciting to see. Dylan Gabriel, before we move on to more of the matchup, you mentioned him. He had a prolific career, of course, at UCF. He makes a decision to transfer to UCLA. But this is Mikey Keene's team. We don't see much of a competition going into 22, correct?
Well, actually, there might be a little bit more of a competition, because the highlight of the early signing class was Thomas Castellanos, a quarterback out of Ware County, Georgia, which in southeastern Georgia, who Gus had his eye on for a long time, prolific dual threat passer, who it's interesting, like mere minutes after Dylan Gabriel posted on social media that he was hopping into the transfer portal. He had to announce where he was going. Thomas Castellanos goes on his social media and he says basically, "Don't worry, UCF fans, I'm on my way." And I love that kind of confidence and ownership from a guy from your quarterback, your quarterback of the future, supposedly. I mean, I kind of dig that. It's easy to say, oh, a little bit of teenage immaturity, kind of like, hey, I'm coming, guys. I'm here to say, here I come to save the day. But I'm like, I kind of like that out of a quarterback. You want that kind of swag. You want that little bit of like, I'm coming. Don't worry, we're going to be all right. So, heading into 2022, I think Gus is in a pretty good spot because you have Keen. To what extent does he develop over the course of the spring? Right, we're gonna have a spring season coming. We have data on what he needs to work on. How much does he work on it? Right. And, does he work and does he get to a point where he's ready to, I think a lot of fans are, hoping for almost like a Mackenzie Milton type freshman to sophomore transition, because Mackenzie made a big leap from his freshman year in 2016 under Scott Frost in Frost's first year to 2017 when UCF went undefeated. I don't know if that's realistic. That's an awfully big ask. But does that happen? Or does Thomas Castellanos come in and just blow the doors off the place, and the coaching staff looks around and like, we got to start this kid. We have to start him. He's beating everybody out. So that's a nice problem to have when you got a couple of young guys back there. And in 2022, you're going to have a sophomore and a freshman, and they're going to be battling it out to see who gets the baton. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. And the other thing that's good about bowl games too, Mark, is you get that extra practice time.
Gasparilla Bowl should be an interesting matchup. We got Florida, we get UCF, and there's an intrigue there, unlike any other among the 40-some bowl games. And before we wrap things up, Jeff, for people watching UCF for the first time against Florida, and there's going to be a lot of people that, of course, just want to watch college football in every bowl game they can get a hold of, they're going to see this team for the first time. So give us a couple players on both sides of the ball to look out for.
Well, for UCF, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on, obviously, your freshman quarterback, Mikey Keene, who, has as he goes, so goes the offense. But the other thing that you got to look out for is the running game. Gus wants to establish the run. To what extent do we see Isaiah Bowser play, having recovered from the injury that he suffered against Louisville? I'm not 100%. We're still not 100% sure on that. He was available toward the end of the year in what we were called emergency situations only. But we are going to see most likely plenty of Johnny Richardson out there for UCF, who's been fantastic, and get ready to see a lot of Ryan O'Keefe too, because that speed on the outside. Ryan O'Keefe is the fastest player on the roster. He's going to be exciting to watch. And for Florida, it's Florida really intrigues me because we just don't know what we're going to get from them, right now. They're, we see, obviously Emory Jones and everything, but, and this was the number 10 team in total offense in the country, and they finished 6-6, and they were 121st in turnover margin. So, we really don't know, what we're going to get from Florida right now. I mean, they have, like I said, they have Dan Mullen got fired. They have Greg Knox as their interim head coach. We just don't know what is going to be the situation regarding him. Emory Jones has announced that he's already heading into the transfer portal. So this is all kind of like, really, uncharted territory, I think, for Florida as a program as they get ready to do this coach transition, and they already have with Billy Napier. But, on this at the same time, I think like you were hinting, at before, that this is a Florida team that has a bunch of other guys out there that have something to prove. Sure, there's a couple guys out there that are, looking for somewhere to go, but they want to show wherever it is that they may go that they're worth the trouble. And in addition, you have a bunch of guys on the roster you want to prove to the incoming coaching staff that, hey, you want to roll with me. So, I don't know. It's the big question to this game. Florida is a 6.5 point favorite right now, but the question is does Florida show up and take this game seriously? Do those guys, come out to play, or are they just playing out the string? Because UCF has their complement ready to go. There is no doubt that these guys, that UCF is the team that's punching up in this game. They want this game. All right, so what happens? I think the first quarter is going to be very key. Whichever team scores first, I think is going to have a major leg up in this game, and I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be a very tight ball game. So I don't know. We'll see. This is what we always hope for from these non-playoff, non-quote major bowl games, right? It's like, give us a good matchup, give us some intrigue, give us something to talk about, and we've got it in this game.
And hey, if Florida doesn't show up and try, then it's, of course, their own fault, but especially considering that they had a matchup with Florida State where the winner goes to a bowl game, the loser doesn't. So they played for this. They showed up in that game with all hell breaking loose and transition all over the place and upheaval.
And won that game on the road, too.
Yeah, on the road. In the midst of that, they, I don't want to say dominated the game, but they were clearly the better team against Florida State. So they played for this. Just want to make sure. So when I say both sides of the ball, I'm looking at like Big Cat Bryant, guys like that. Are they playing? Tatum Bethune led you in tackles, 101. Those guys, Quadric Bullard, some of those key players on defense as well.
Those guys are all going to be there and ready to go. And I think that, the full complement of defense and Travis Williams, the defensive coordinator, I think, we've seen his scheme sort of evolve over the course of the year as the players have become a lot more comfortable with it. They've really taken to it. I mean, the defense for UCF is what really won them a bunch of games this year. Go back to the most recent game against South Florida. So, a bunch of one-score games, right? South Florida, one-score game. Tulane, one-score game. East Carolina, one-score game. And Boise State was a one-score game that UCF won. And it's the defense that kept UCF in it when the offense was struggling. Because, hey, true freshman quarterback, right? He's going to have his good days. He's going to have his bad days. But the defense was what really stepped it up for UCF. And even in the games where UCF won big, like I think back to the game at Temple where UCF dropped 49 points on Temple, what really brought that game home was the defense shortening the field for the offense. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the front guys can do. Big Cat Bryant, like you said, has had a fantastic year. He was invited to the Hula Bowl, which will be held at UCF this year, that college all-star game. Mackenzie Milton actually coming back and playing his final collegiate game at the Bounce House. That's going to be fun. What's this defense going to do against an SEC offensive line? I think that's going to be a really interesting and intriguing battle up front. And you know how it is. It's, whichever team dominates the trenches is going to win the game. And if UCF can get pressure on Florida's, if they can hold the running game and get pressure on Florida's quarterback, it should be a good day for UCF's defense. And that's just a question of, hey, do you make some plays? Maybe you get a turnover, a good special teams play. The South Florida game kind of turned on a special teams play with Titus Mokiao Atamalalo, running that sort of that okey doke punt return, where everyone runs in one direction and the punt's actually going the other, and then he fields it and there's nobody there. That's the, do you make some plays happen that kind of give you the momentum and get your crowd going in the game, because this game is going to be, it's going to be a wild atmosphere for this bowl game. 65,000 people in Raymond James. So, whichever crowd brings it, I think is going to have a real leg up, because it's going to get rowdy.
Jeff spotlights a big cat, 13 tackles for loss, 6 sacks coming in from Auburn. And on the offensive side, Ryan O'Keefe, 77 catches, 6 touchdowns, gave him the ball as a running back 12 times, and he went for almost 14 yards per carry.
And a lot of the 77 catches, they were kind of like extended running plays, where that Gus likes to run from, just getting him the ball out in space. They were forward passes, but they were really like long tosses. So it's just a question, how do you get him the ball? And that's what UCF was able to do this year.
Black and gold banneret, folks. Get yourself set for this bowl game and UCF football and athletics overall. Jeff and the rest of the staff there at SB Nation. Jeff, we appreciate you stopping by. Good to see you, and good luck on Thursday.
Thanks, Mark. Always good to see you. Enjoy the holiday and enjoy the game.